All right, this is jpeg2RAW, show number 164 on February 9th, 2016. Tonight we're going to go over a topic that we've not gone over yet. Another one after 164 shows. We've not talked about this topic, but it's something I love watching this stuff on TV. I always dream about going to one of these places. And tonight our guest, Ron Clifford, who's returning. You were here a while back. I should have looked at it before we started.
Probably about a year ago now.
Yeah, probably about a year ago. Yeah. You just came back from a trip to Antarctica, right?
That's right. Yeah, a big trip to Antarctica. It wasn't just Antarctica. I'll explain that in a minute. But yeah, a big part of that trip was Antarctica.
Yeah, that's exciting. Before we get into all that, for people who maybe missed the first show and who don't know who Ron is, can you give us a little backstory on who Ron is?
Yeah, I'm a photographer. More than that, a creative mentor. What I tell people is I love the connections that my camera helps me create. So if I'm involved in community, if I'm leading workshops, if I'm getting together with other creative people, that's what kind of gets me out of bed in the morning. And in the last several years, I've been very fortunate to be able to do this as a full-time photographer and instructor. And because of that, because I'm able to teach, as we talked about in the last show, I work with the Arcanum, teaching and helping mentor other creative people. I consider myself actually one of the most fortunate people in the world. Not everybody gets to get out of bed and do what they feel they were born to do in the world, and I get to do that.
And you're a master now at the Arcanum, right?
Yeah, I'm a master. I've been a master since the beginning. I was one of the first 6 masters, but I'm also I also teach other masters to lead their own groups of people. So I onboard new masters in the Arcanum as part of the team in the background.
Yeah, I see so many people who are part of a what do you call it, cohort? There, and who are learning.
Cohort is our online community of learners. I have 2 different cohorts. One is a foundation cohort of learners, and the other one is an advanced landscape cohort. And that one's kind of diminishing. I'll be launching a new cohort soon, but yeah, it's a pretty exciting way to learn. It's goal-based. There's some one-on-one time with me, the master or mentor in the community, and there's also community feedback and sharing. So you get education from many different angles, and people seem to, at least for the people it works really well for, grow at a very accelerated rate. It's really exciting.
Yeah, it was a great opportunity for people. And just arcanum.com where you can go check out.
The Arcanum.
thearcanum.com. Okay. All right. So how long have you been planning this trip?
It's funny, this is part of my bigger story. I never believed in bucket lists and vision boards.
Yeah.
Wasn't on the table. And a year ago, December, I was with some friends on a trip, a photo tour up north. I do a lot of cold weather photography. And so it was December, right at the end of December there, just after Christmas, moving into January. They told me about how they'd done vision boards and bucket lists. And I finally said, you know what? I keep hearing people talk about this. I found it really hokey. And I said, I'm going to give this a try. And so on my vision board, I put a number of things. I should show you that it's real. I wasn't even planning this, but I should show this vision board to you. It's on a piece of Bristol board, cut and paste, really like
I'd love to see it. Yeah.
Old school. One second. And so I had an opportunity to possibly go to Antarctica the previous year, but I got kind of bumped out from some higher profile photographers. They wanted some really higher profile photographers because you can imagine a trip like that isn't inexpensive.
Right.
And so they want to attract people. And so I was bumped off of that. And after that, I got a call from a friend of mine who wanted to get together for dinner. And right after making this list, and I'm going to show you this. So I just want to show you one part of this. If you look up there,
yeah,
you'll see there's the whale jumping. And if you look, let me find it. So vision board. Oh, there we are, down near the bottom. See that picture there of the
the iceberg,
Zodiac, right, and the penguins.
Yeah.
Well, I was doing that very thing this year. This was done a year ago, and I was in a Zodiac just like that, doing exactly that, leading other photographers and teaching them a little bit about photography and composition and cold weather shooting.
Wow.
And what happened was last December, at the end of December, I wrote that on a Sunday night on my bucket list. The first place in travel I wanted to go to was Antarctica. And I put it on my vision board. And on Monday, I got a call from my friend, and he said, I want to go out for dinner with you. And I thought he wanted to talk about some life stuff he had happened. And so I said, sure, we'll get together. And about 40 minutes into the dinner, he said, Ron, actually, the reason I'm talking to you today is because I need to know if you're going to be a yes to go to Antarctica this year. Literally the next day from writing my bucket list and vision board. And that vision board actually was a little too small because in the year since, I've accomplished nearly everything on that board.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm just...
I'm familiar with the bucket list, but tell me more about a vision board.
Well, a vision board, this is my version. Everybody's got their own version. My version is that a vision board gives you a visual representation of something you would like to do that you could put faith towards. And so when I have my pictures, you know, I got stuff up here, like you can see that I got in the middle, I got like a family and the word balance and being fully present. I got a number of things in there. I got a retreat there, photography retreat location. I have a home studio in there. Guess what I'm just finishing now? I'm on the last legs of finishing. Is my home studio.
I had that on my list to ask you, new studio.
Yeah, I got a new studio. But the vision board gives me something to have faith towards, because I don't believe in blind faith. I don't think that's a reality for people. I think faith needs something to walk toward. And I'm not getting into a big spiritual discussion about it, but that's what a vision board is to me. It puts something on paper that's tangible I can look at, that I can move toward. It helps give me clarity.
Okay. So now this trip you went down there, I know a lot of people who go down there go on a cruise, which I think cruises normally you can't get on land if it's a bigger ship. Yeah,
we are fortunate. One Ocean, this is the company that I was hired by as part of a photography symposium. And so we're a group of 4 photographers, well, 3 photographers and an artist on this last trip that helped guide people in Antarctica and give presentations on sea days. Do it from a ship. We are on a ship called the Academic Ioffe, and it's a Russian science vessel. It has a sister ship that the company also runs and does both Arctic and Antarctic tours. Fortunately, it's a ship that holds about 100 passengers, and it's under the threshold, so we aren't restricted to do shore landings, and we can do shore landings for our entire passenger list through the 12 Zodiacs we have on board.
And I think that's something that a lot of people don't know. I didn't know when I started researching that only 100 people are allowed on shore at a time, right?
Yeah, so some landings can allow more, but if you want the maximum, like only a certain number of people are allowed on shore at a time, and they actually monitor the traffic to each landing. So while you may go down one season and get like these 5 landings, you're going out another season, and those 5 landings will be closed off to you because there has been traffic there already and they want to let it rest, and you'll go to new landings. So they really do monitor the human impact on these places. Even to the point, which I've really loved, is that we have actually bio-cleaning stations, so that when you're finished at a location and you come back to the ship, you can't go to another landing without going through a bio-cleaning station and washing your gear off to get rid of seeds or bacteria that might be transferred from one site to another.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah.
So then you went down there not as somebody who's going down there with a cruise or pay in for a tour guide or something like that. You went down there working?
That's right. I was an instructor on a team of people. So what my role was to help guide people. Like I said, if I get up in the morning and I'm able to help people, so then that's really what I love to do. And so I was invited to do this trip. So I'm paid staff, and I help guide people on shore landings. I do a lot of my own shooting, but my biggest role is on the ship during shore days to help with presentations and one-on-ones with people, to help them with their photography and their cameras and questions they might have about shooting in cold weather.
Were most of the people on the trip photographers?
Yeah, quite a few. Not the entire ship. There was, interestingly enough, there were 2 grandchildren of people that were on the Shackleton team, the Shackleton Adventure.
Yeah.
And so they were doing a memorial when we went to South Georgia Island at Grytviken, the memorial for two of the people that were on the Shackleton adventure. And for those who don't know the Shackleton adventure, at the turn of the century, he was down there, I think it was about 1914 to 17. His ship called the Endurance got stuck in the Weddell Sea ice. And Shackleton and his team survived 2 years in Antarctica. Survived 26 months in Antarctica before they were finally rescued. And it's a miraculous tale. If you get the chance, read the book called The Endurance or watch the movie.
Yeah.
I think I remember actually reading something about that not too long ago about them getting lost and for 2 years they were wandering around. I don't know what I was reading, but that's interesting.
The amazing thing about that journey is that their team, their Antarctic team, Shackleton's direct team, they didn't lose a single man during that time. And it's a fascinating tale. And having been there, I got to tell you, I was down there in what's called Antarctic summer. Mm-hmm. I cannot mentally fathom surviving a winter down there.
No, I've seen what the penguins had to go through, and it's not easy for them.
Yeah.
And we're not built like a penguin.
No, we're not.
Yeah.
So give me an idea on like time commitment on when you leave your home to when you get back to your home. What kind of time frame are we talking about?
The last trip was about 5 weeks, and it consisted of 2 different trips. One was a bit of a triangle, so we went to the Falkland Islands, South Georgia, and the tip of the the Antarctic Peninsula. Mm-hmm. And then the second tour, that was a shorter trip. That was like about 9 days. The next trip was 18 days, and it was just down to the Antarctic Peninsula, and it was really in-depth. It was called Off the Beaten Track, and it really explored the Antarctic Peninsula. And we got close to the Antarctic Circle, but didn't quite get that far down.
So you actually got to go to Antarctica twice with 2 different groups of people?
Yeah, that's right.
That's awesome. So for you, that was 5 weeks because you're doing the 2 different groups. If I was with one of those groups, how long am I talking?
The average trip is about, I would plan for probably 10 to 12 days, including travel.
Okay.
But the photography symposiums sometimes are longer, like the one that I'll be doing more symposiums with them October and November. And it's another like 18-day cruise for one of them. So there is longer ones that could take, as much as 3 weeks away from home.
Okay. So 1, you got to do that. Then 2, this is not a trip, a cheap trip for somebody who's paying. And for a lot of people, this may be a once in a lifetime trip.
Yeah, it is. I met a wide variety of people. Some of them were people, this was their 7th continent to step on.
Wow.
And the big risk about doing this trip is there's no guarantee you will get to set foot on the Antarctic Peninsula, depending on weather and landing conditions. Yeah. So you might be confined to the ship. And so you might make this great adventure and not actually get to set your foot on the actual peninsula. But we were fortunate and we were able to do that. And some people got their 7th continent during our trip.
And that's why I was reading it's important to make sure you're on a ship that has the 100 or less people, because imagine going on this once-in-a-lifetime trip. The weather is okay for you to make the landing, but you can't go on because your ship's too big.
Your ship has exceeded the number of people. And it's true that with the 100 or less people, you are not restricted on shore landings. So you can go to some of the more intimate landings if weather is bad, whereas bigger ships aren't able to do that. And they have a restriction. I don't think they even allow ships over 500 passengers down there. It's just not practical. It's not doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, what I was reading on those bigger ships, they're just not designed, the shore's not designed for those bigger ships to land.
No, a shore landing might look like this. The staff will go out in the first Zodiac, so we're called to first Zodiac, so we got to be there, 20 minutes or a half hour before everyone else. We'll go to shore, and we have ice picks and shovels. And at early season, there's often ice, and we have to find the most likely place to literally pick and dig a set of stairs for passengers to get up onto the shore from.
Wow.
And so you can imagine that first, it's good to have a certain amount of mobility. Yeah. Although we help people with more mobility issues, generally speaking, mobility is important. You want to be in reasonable shape. Right. You don't have to be like an Olympic runner by any means, but you just need to be able to get up and down a gangway on the side of a ship, jump into a Zodiac in rough water, Zodiac the distance it takes to get to shore, and then get helped onshore from that point.
And you mentioned rough water, so let's talk about rough water, because some of the seas down there, Drake Passage, I think, is one of them. Some of the seas are some of the roughest seas on the planet.
The Drake Passage is the roughest sea in the world.
Yeah.
It's kind of the recipe for the perfect storm. Three oceans and certain currents and wind patterns develop that create one of the most unusual seas. And our first day out, we actually, for the first time, I think, in many, many years, had to stay overnight in Ushuaia, the southern tip of Argentina, before making our departure, because there was two major storm cells converging on the Drake Passage. And when you look at a weather map, it goes different colors. And when it goes purple, that's like that this is, you're not fooling around. Yeah. And there was two cells purple. And so the first cell left, and the captain made a decision to sail between the two cells and stay an extra night in Ushuaia. Having made that decision, it was a great decision, because we ended up getting pushed and arrived without losing any time in the Antarctic Peninsula. But it was my first time being seasick. And I generally don't get seasick. There was some generous weather that first 24 hours.
That's saying it mildly. So, most people who listen to this, probably like me, the most you've done as far as sea is going on a cruise, which is fairly, easy on us. You go on one of those big cruise ships, especially if you're just going to Caribbean and not like to Alaska or something like that. There's not that much waves, but even on those, I need to take ginger pills because, and I only know about ginger pills from watching MythBusters, but take ginger pills, and that seemed to have helped me, but I don't think that would be enough. What did you take anything?
On the first trip out, I'd never been seasick, and I spent most of my life on or around water. So I didn't take anything when I first started. I thought I'd be okay. I thought I'd test the waters. My advice to you is if there's going to be rough seas and the doctor on board is recommending all passengers put a patch on or take Dramamine, do it.
Yeah.
Because while it does kind of
fog you,
it gives you a little bit of a fog.
Yeah.
It's way better than the alternative.
And what I understand is you want to get in front of that. You want to be taking it before you get seasick.
Yeah, if you're going out on a ship, you want to be taking it a few hours ahead of time. So if you're going to be hitting rough water at dinner time, take it at lunchtime.
Yeah.
And I got onto a pattern where I was fine except for the very roughest of seas. So I didn't need any medication. Only on two passings of the Drake, of the four I went on, two were rough. And I used the patch for those two crossings. And I was fine once I was on the patch. I was just fine.
And how long are you at sea going from? Are you going from the Falklands?
Yeah, if you go from Ushuaia, you go out the Beagle Channel, and it's 2 days if you go straight down. Okay. If you go all the way over to South Georgia, which is a 3-day, pretty much a trip, then it's 2.5 days or 3 days at sea. And so you have some long sea days. But I got to tell you, it's every day at sea is worth the experience of seeing Antarctica. Not to mention, like South Georgia, there's nothing like it on the planet.
Yeah.
I mean, there is nothing like it on the planet. I was in penguin colonies of between 250 and 500,000 king penguins.
Oh my gosh.
As far as you could see, penguins. And fur seals and elephant seals and albatross and petrels. And the wildlife down there is incredible. That's South Georgia, which is not really Antarctica. That's the sub-Antarctic, and it still has vegetation, but it is a massive breeding ground for those animals.
Yeah.
Falkland Islands as well was pretty spectacular.
And of course, I've only seen this on TV.
Right.
But seeing that many penguins, that much wildlife, all in one area, it looks pristine when I watch it on TV. But what does it seem like when you're there? Is it smelly? Is it loud?
It's loud and smelly. Early in the season, it's not quite as smelly. The cold weather and the snow covers a lot of the penguin guano, and they're just arriving in their colonies, so they're not as full. But South Georgia, especially with the bigger colonies, that was pretty interesting. I'd show you. I got a colony here, but I don't quite know the screen share of the Skype, so I'm going to leave that alone for now.
Okay.
But the king penguin colonies, being that it's a bit milder and it hovers just above zero, there is more smell, but it's not unbearable. It's not any worse than going to a horse farm and you smell manure. You go, maybe it's worse than manure, but you just get used to it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I don't think I would have realized that. I mean, you see it on TV, and you don't get the sense of smell, obviously. And I guess the cold weather, you don't associate smell with the cold weather, as opposed to, let's say, you go out in I don't know, in the summer where there's a farm or something. I wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah. So in the Antarctic summer, as things really warm up around January, February, the smell is a lot more, and the chicks are around and the colonies are bigger. But I think the worst smell for me was fur seals. Fur seals they smell terrible.
I never guessed.
I don't know what it is about fur seals, but they just don't. Yeah, I was just noticing the little baby fur seal there going by. He was a character. He was literally, we had to back up. He was that close. He was putting his face right in our cameras. And just while we're talking about that, there's generally a 5 meter or more, depending on the species, rule for passengers and staff. So we're not allowed to approach animals any closer than 5 meters, and often more if they're bigger animals, like elephant seals or things that could be more threatening. But if you're still and they approach you, that's okay. They have no fear of humans. They don't have a reason to be afraid. And I have literally been nose to nose with baby elephant seals, pups. Yeah, they're called Ellies, and they're the cutest things. I say babies, they're 300 to 500 pounds.
Oh my God.
But they're the most curious, peaceful, and playful things you ever saw. The fur seal that rolls around on the images you've got there, he's the size of a small dog, and he's really friendly, but he's trying to be a big guy, right? He's trying to be like his dad, and he's aggressive, and he'll bite your camera and bite your tripod and probably bite your finger if you stuck it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, the wildlife is incredible, but as passengers and crew and staff, we try to maintain a safe distance. But if the friendly animals want to approach us, then that's fine. We don't reach out to touch them or pet them. We don't want to have that type of interaction with them, and sometimes we literally do have to back up to maintain even a photographic distance from them.
Sure, right.
What is that a picture there on the bottom of the two that are up there right now? It almost looked like it was a submarine.
Do I need to go back?
Oh, that one is a place called Waterboat Point, and there's a hut, an ancient hut. It's probably over 100 years old down there. I don't know the age, but it's a penguin colony. The interesting thing about the penguin colony is the penguins are the same color as the hut, and then the mountains and the calving glaciers just fly up behind them. It gives you a sense of scale. The massive scale that the mountains just continue behind you, and even what you can't see, they continue.
Yeah,
the mountains continue. Something that no photograph or video footage will show you is the absolute scale of Antarctica. If there was one thing that had impressed upon me, the first 3 days we were down there was foggy, and I didn't see anything. And then one day it cleared up, and then the clouds lifted and lifted and lifted and lifted and lifted, and it was an emotional experience. The scale of sheer rock and ice and water. I mean, that's all that's there is rock and ice and water.
Right.
And there's no vegetation. And so that kind of leads to this, you'd mentioned just before we came on air about the krill fishery, or not the fishery, the krill, the krill, the abundance of krill in the South or the Antarctic. And krill is the fuel that feeds the wildlife of the Antarctic. The whales feed on the krill, the birds feed on the krill, penguins will feed on the krill, seals will feed on it, everything feeds on the krill. Small fish feed on the krill, and then, the cycle continues. And so the krill, the abundance of krill in this very, very unique ecology, what do you call it? Like a ecosystem, like a little biosphere, is that the conditions are just right in Antarctic summer to heat the water just below a lot of the ice to create an algae bloom that the krill feed on. And the krill proliferate. And so the whales come to feed on them, and the animals come, and the birds come. And this is how the penguins are able to live down there. And it just supports this little window, this little wafer of sea life that happens just below the surface and just above the surface. There's no life up in the mountains, and there's no life deep in the sea. It's all this little wafer between air and sea that happens.
But there is a massive amount of life in that wafer.
A massive amount of life, a whole... it's incredible what you get to see. You get to see breaching whales. Like, I don't know if you've ever got to witness in a while. I only got to witness it one time, a 60-foot humpback whale fully clearing the water in breaching off the bow of the ship.
Gosh.
And it's just this massive, massive animal just playfully, jumping, leaping out of the water.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's a little frightening because you think he could easily jump up and hit a boat and do some significant damage if not flip it over.
Well, that's true. And then we're in our zodiacs, and there's humpback whales bubble feeding around us.
Oh, wow.
On the krill. And
that just gives me the chills.
They're extremely gentle, though. They reach up and they'll poke their head up out of the water, and they'll look at you, and they'll continue feeding. They're curious. And like I say, they have no reason. Of any animal, they have a reason to hate people, but they don't.
Yeah.
They really don't hate people. They don't seem to have an aggressive bone in their body, some of these whales. And
did you see any orca or killer whales?
I didn't get a chance to see any. I was there just before that season was about to start. So if you were there now at this time of year, definitely you would see orca.
And when is the summertime? I imagine that's the travel time for these.
It's completely opposite to us up here, like New York and Toronto. Okay. Our winter is polar to their opposite to their summer. So they're right in the middle of their main summer right now.
And I see a lot of your shots have ice in it. What is the temperature like when you go there this time of year?
We were down there in November and December, and it ranges from just above zero to probably the coldest day might have been around -5 or -8 Celsius. But it hovers around zero most days because it's tempered by the ocean.
Okay.
Of course, there's a lot of high wind. Just to let you know, there's 4 things that the Antarctic is. It's the windiest, driest, coldest, highest place on the planet. And it's the most unusual thing because the Antarctic is made of almost entirely water. And like that image that just went by is entirely water. The snow is water, the mist is water, the water is water, and the iceberg is water.
Yeah.
And it's the driest place on Earth.
Wow.
You're so dry, you're so parched down there. I can't explain it.
Yeah, yeah. No, that iceberg, it just went off the screen. And I know the photo's probably not doing justice to the scale because it's a photo, but in the photo it looks massive. Did you see some massive?
I saw, what is it called, B-15? The iceberg that broke off about 6 years ago from one of the ice shelves is over 11 nautical miles long.
Oh, wow.
It's a tabular iceberg that looks like land, but it's an iceberg. And we got to witness that. And the little icebergs, they're not little, the other icebergs that have broken off it over the years since then, that fill those channels down there in a place that was kind of dubbed Iceberg Alley.
Well, let me ask you a few photography-related questions about the trip. So, for someone planning to go down there, what kind of preparation did it need to take? Gear-wise, thinking about I'm going to be dealing with salt water, that kind of stuff, condensation maybe.
Yeah, condensation's a big issue. Like coming in from the ship after being outside, spray from the Zodiac, snow. Slushy snow, when it gets kind of hovers around zero, that's the worst snow for any photographer because your camera is black.
Yeah.
And the snow melts when it hits your camera. And that's the most dangerous kind. It's almost like just being out in the rain. And so I always kept a towel with me. I don't really use these covers very well. They're not as convenient, especially with gloves on. So I would just bring a microfiber towel and I'd throw it over the top of my camera with my telephoto lens and use that often like that. But as far as clothing, the first thing I would say is layers and waterproof.
Waterproof, yeah.
Water resistant doesn't cut it. You're in the Zodiac going from ship to shore, and that ride can literally drench you. You can become soaked. So I have full bib pants. They're Arc'teryx waterproof pants, and a Gore-Tex shell with a hood. And passengers, though, the ship we provide. Yeah. Like wet skins or ghillie suits, like full waterproof suits for passengers and muck boots to wear so that they're waterproof. But as staff, I brought my own gear. I have my own gear, so I prefer to work with my own gear. And always have a couple of everything, like especially gloves. Like you're going down a wet gangway in the morning, there's maybe wet snow on the rails and maybe a wave splashes you. And when you get to shore, you just switch out into some dry gloves. And layer. You get to shore in the afternoon. You may go up to a peak where there's no wind and the sun's hitting the rocks, and it warms up remarkably. And you want to peel off some layers. So the whole big parka idea, the Arctic parka you see people up in the north with, Antarctic summer is different, where you'll need to bulk up and have the full, like I have a hood fleece face shield, kind of hat and gloves, and I get really bundled up, and then I can peel it all down as it warms up. The one piece of gear you want to bring and never forget is sunscreen.
Yeah. All that white snow and stuff.
Well, it's the white snow, but there's a hole in the ozone over the Antarctic.
I
And
didn't think
you'll
of
burn really badly in 10 to 15 minutes.
Wow.
And so we saw a lot of that. A lot of passengers don't believe you when you say, put your sunscreen on. And they spend the next several days with cracked, bleeding lips and burnt, peeling noses. And I actually, the one place that, interestingly, I did wear sunscreen, but I got burnt on my upper lip and under my nose and under my chin and on my eyelids. And that's the reflection coming up, because you don't normally think to put sunscreen
under
and block in those places. And so I say to you, your most important piece of gear is your sunscreen.
Yeah.
And you don't have much that's exposed, but make sure what's exposed
is covered.
Is your sunblock chapstick. Even if you take your gloves off regularly, put it on your hands and cover your face.
Yeah, because that's really, to be miserable to be sunburnt down there on what could be a once in a lifetime trip.
Yeah.
As you're fortunate enough. I mean, that's incredible. You're able to go multiple times, but for a lot of those people, they may never get to go again.
It is. I met many people that was a once in a lifetime trip. There's a range of passengers. There's people that wealthy business people, and they like to travel, and this was on their bucket list of places to go. They like to go to places a little more different or exotic. And this is a fantastic trip to do that on in the safety of a larger vessel with an experienced crew. And there's other people that maybe they just work the 9 to 5 like any of us, and they've saved for years to make this trip happen. And it is a once in a lifetime experience. You can't see this anywhere in the world. Yeah. You just can't.
So going back to some of the photography stuff, did you get a special camera bag, something that could hold up to the salt weather and be sealed and not leak?
Interestingly, I was talking to a company that I saw a tripod that they had, and they're not known as a high-end company for pro gear. They have a prosumer line called Vanguard, and I wanted to test a couple of their tripods because I liked some of the innovation they've been doing.
Yeah.
And they also sent me along a backpack that fits as carry-on.
Okay. And
it was called I got it right here. I didn't even know I'd be doing this. It's just sitting on the chair. It's called a Skyborne 49. Interestingly, this backpack has been to Antarctica and put to heavy, heavy use every day for 5 weeks. And I got to say, for the price,
it held up.
This held enough gear for every day. It went in and out of the Zodiac. It has a cover that I can pull out and put over it that makes it water resistant. But for the really rough days, I put it in a dry bag just to be safe. But it is rather remarkably tough, made of really durable materials, unlike some camera bags. And the bottom is like a solid molded piece. Mm-hmm. And so I could put it down on ice and wet and rock and guano and crap, and it didn't matter. And so this camera bag, interestingly, really stood the test of time, made by a company called Vanguard. And in the past, they've been notably affordable and kind of consumer brand, but they've moved into the pro line. If I open this up really quickly, you can even see I got a camera with a 80 to 400 millimeter lens, and another camera with a zoom lens in the bottom there. It literally holds everything you're going to need for a day.
Yeah. Two cameras.
Two camera bodies, 3 lenses, and some accessories, plus extra room for an extra down coat in the front. And some gloves.
That was one of the questions I was going to ask you is, again, thinking about that person who's not going to be able to go back ever, maybe, or very seldom, should they be bringing a backup camera? What lenses should they be thinking about bringing? And do you bring a backup lens? You'd hate to go down there and day one, your camera breaks.
Well, I got to tell you a story. There was a couple on board, beautiful couple, and they rented cameras for the occasion, and he rented a D4 and she had or rented a D800, and his D4 broke down day 2.
Oh.
Fortunately, they had their crop sensor, like they're probably like a D7200 or a D7. They had their own cameras they had with them, so it didn't ruin the trip.
Okay.
And they still had a great. I mean, the D800 is a phenomenal camera,
Sure.
especially for landscapes. But my recommendation is, well, we know that the best camera is the one you have with you.
Yep.
There were passengers on board that literally had like 2007 2-megapixel cameras with them, and they were very happy with their pictures. For me, as a photographer, I would suggest to any serious enthusiast, rent yourself, if you're a Canon user, the 100 to 400 millimeter lens. And if you're a Nikon user, the 80 to 400 millimeter lens. Most of the pictures that you're showing, like this one there of that Cara, that image there was shot at 3200 ISO at almost 400 millimeters. And that's pretty much full frame there. And having a good zoom lens, it doesn't have to be super. You don't need these 600 millimeter lenses.
Yeah.
400 is more than enough.
Way like massive.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this, you could handhold this. It's great for birds. And then a wide to mid-range telephoto. You really only need 2 lenses. I prefer to carry 2 bodies, so I don't change lenses in the field. I don't like to change lenses when there's moisture and there's snow and there's sand and there's wind. So I carry one camera. Always had my wide to mid-range, and one camera always had my 80 to 400. And that's an ideal setup for a serious photographer. I would always recommend having 2 cameras and extra backup. I say backup everything. Memory is cheap.
Yeah.
So if you're bringing your laptop down or your iPad or whatever, bring an extra hard drive, a little portable hard drive. Like I use these, I've got a couple ones, these little portable USB drives, USB 3 drives. They're fantastic. And I bring 2 of them with me, and I always have my images backed up to these drives. Every day I do a backup, every single day.
Yeah,
because when you're down there, you spent somewhere between $5,000 and $20,000 on a ticket, and you didn't spend $100 on a backup drive.
And that goes with everything. If you're spending all this money and all this gear and all this training, you're learning from the Arcanum, you've rented all this stuff, and you're not backing up your images. You always should be backing up your images. And in a place like that where you're going to be gone for 3 weeks maybe and off in a remote location,
there's no stores. You don't.
You
get
can't
stores.
pop down to Walmart and pick something up.
I mean, B&H isn't down there on the local corner?
B&H isn't down there. No.
Amazon
and you know
won't
what
deliver.
happened to me? I broke my sunglasses. On the first trip on the way out to South Georgia, and I was in the Falkland Islands. Falkland Islands are the only place in Port Stanley, the only place I had a hope of finding sunglasses. And the only sunglasses that I could find during our stay there were a pair of $200 Calvin Klein sunglasses.
Well, you got to get them, right?
I bought them. I had to. You can't be down there without your sunglasses.
No.
That's the other thing. As much as you need sunscreen, you need sunglasses. The UV is so bright. The sun is so bright. The snow is so bright. Yeah. You want your sunglasses.
And speaking of that, so did you use any filters on your lenses to help combat some of that?
I don't. Generally, I rarely put filters on my lens unless it's a neutral density to slow the sky or the water down. And I did use that a couple of times. Actually, on the ship, I set up my tripod on the ship and shot long exposure off the bow. So the bow is still, but the water's all soft. It's kind of a neat shot. But generally, no, I'm not a big fan of filters over my front element. Okay. And in the Antarctic, except for shooting straight into icebergs, if you use a polarizer, you actually turn the sky black. Oh. It has a really exaggerated effect that's really not attractive.
I didn't know that. I would have put a polarizer on there.
Yeah, you'd think right away, put the polarizer on. Yeah. But no, the air is so dry and the angle of the sun so unique, you get literally black skies in your pictures putting the polarizer on. But if you're shooting into the icebergs and into the water, you're pointed down, that's a different story altogether.
Now, did you was it 24/7 light?
It wasn't 24/7, but by the end of the trip, the sun would set at about 11:30. Okay. And twilight would begin at 1:30. The sun would come up again at 2:30. So it was never fully dark.
How did you feel the light quality was from a photographer standpoint?
Oh, it was tricky. Well, first of all, for shooting wildlife, it was incredible because the weather there changes. If you are not happy with the light, just wait 5 minutes. Yeah. It changes so rapidly and dramatically. I've never seen anything like it in the world. Like you're looking at that one there that's actually in the mouth of an active volcano in the water. What's the name of that? Deception Island. And the light, it was totally overcast. And then cracked, the light just came out of the clouds and just gave that image. And it was like, I rushed, set my tripod up. That image was, to me, quintessential image of that area and the old whaling station, that one building that remained of the old whaling station, and the mood of what might have taken place there.
Did you feel like, I just don't have enough time here, I really could spend a lot more time at this location?
Oh, absolutely. I could have stayed there for 6 months easily without noticing a day go by. By the time I was into the 5th week, I was anxious and feeling like I was finally ready to start taking good pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that picture I'm looking at now that just popped up there. Again, Waterboat Point, this storm came in and sat over top of everything, and the drama in the sky. It's storming right off in the background. It's just incredible. And then a few minutes later, the sun might come out. You can't tell. So for wildlife, it's really good because you get a lot of overcast, which is cool. For landscape, it was tricky, really tricky, because I've never seen light like it. There was a quality to the light that I found was really hard to capture. And I did my best. And I think, like I said, by 5 weeks in, I was starting to get it.
Okay. Now, were you going back at night on the boat? And, I imagine you slept on the boat, right?
Yeah, we slept on the boat. You can't, part of the Antarctic Treaty is tour operations can't stay overnight, can't do overnight excursion at some of the landings. You can do an overnight trip with the kayakers for a few people, but you can't go into, like, where the colonies are. You can't disturb the wildlife overnight. Right. So we go back on the ship. We'd have our dinner. We'd do evening presentations. We'd usually do something in the lounge, some fun activity, and then go to bed and wake up and do it all over again.
That is fantastic to be able to go out and do that and come back and have Ron there helping with the presentation and critiquing our work. It's fantastic.
Yeah, one of the most I guess we got the most feedback, the most positive feedback on is we would do a little bit of group feedback, kind of like mini critique. We'd take the images that the passengers had shared from the day and we'd show some, and we'd tell them why they didn't get into the day's slideshow or why they did. Like we'd talk about, how they could strengthen their images, and everyone really resonated well with that. It was done in a real atmosphere of learning and encouragement. And so the passengers got a lot out of us sharing their own images and talking about how we might do it differently as photographers. And to watch over the course of literally a week or 2 or 3, each photographer's grow while they're on the trip was pretty phenomenal.
Well, I got to imagine if I'm out there shooting and I come back and I have Ron critique me and tell me how it can be better. I mean, this again, for if I went, it'd be my once in a lifetime shot. Darn it, on it, I want to get the best shots I can get. So tell me what I'm doing wrong and let's head back out.
Yeah, that was really helpful. And Daisy Ghilardini, she is one of the lead people there. She's been with the company for a very long time. She's been doing polar expeditions for 18 years, both the Antarctic and Arctic. And she's a great example. She really led the team very well. And she's an example she would give presentations about the next day's landing, what to expect, what to prepare for, some camera settings, things to kind of get right before you get on the shore. Before you step on the shore, what should you be prepared for? And so she was a great example of how to lead a group that way. Of course, I gave my contribution as well, but I have less experience in Antarctica. So my expertise was in obviously using the camera and composition, especially with Lightroom and Photoshop and software. I was able to help a lot with that.
Imagine most people or some people brought laptops like you. What is the power situation there? Is this like a normal cruise ship room where I got outlets I can charge my stuff when I come back to the ship?
Yeah, every room has outlets. It's on European power. These are Russian vessels, so you do want to bring a converter.
Okay.
If you're in North America, if you're European already, you're okay. You're good to go. But there was ample power on the ship to charge all your your things. Every day we'd come in, we'd upload our cards, we'd edit, we'd get some images in for the next day's poster that goes up talking about the next day's activities. And there's a really great schedule, a great group of people, always activities happening for those days at sea, for those days where you can't get on land. There's never a dull moment. Really, there isn't a dull moment.
So even when you're on ship, it's just not a dull moment. You're not like chomping at the bit to get back on shore?
Well, you'd love to be on shore all the time, but no, when we're on ship, there are presentations, there's historians on board, there's a geologist on board, there's a specialist on ice on board, plus the photographers giving presentations. So there's always something to do. You can just always hang out. You can go on deck. You can photograph from there. And usually while at sea, there's a lot of bird photography. There's incredible opportunities for bird photography.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine from the ship, the view is fantastic from the ship too.
Well, it can be. It can really be fantastic. Of course, I'd love to show the picture of us breaking into some pretty big seas, but I say, I'm not so familiar with that screen share. So.
Well, let's try that in just a second if you don't mind. But before we go to that, what was my question? Oh, how much time do you get to spend if you got to shore? How many hours would you actually spend on shore? Because I'm imagining you probably should not have like lunch on shore or anything like that, right?
No, we would eat on the ship. The ship serves fantastic meals. We had a wonderful, wonderful chef that made us some of the most amazing meals. We were well fed. In spite of being well fed, I did lose 10 pounds in 5 weeks.
Are you working?
A lot of activity. I was working hard.
Yeah.
And what people may not realize is that from sea level, everything is uphill.
I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Yeah. From your first step, everything is uphill.
Yeah.
So
It's true.
you get a bit of exercise, and it's really great. It's really good. But yeah, it would be a morning landing, then lunch, then an afternoon landing, and then dinner, and then presentations. On a couple of occasions, we squeaked in 3 landings in a day because we do have a lot of light.
Okay. So let's try. Let's see if we can do the screen share thing. So, you in a Mac or PC?
I'm on a Mac or a PC. Sorry, PC
Okay.
desktop. I just went to full screen here. I just got to find wherever the icon is to.
If you go to, there should be a menu item called Call.
A menu item called Call. Yeah.
And then down below toward the bottom, something that says Share Screen.
Share screens. Got it. Yeah.
And while you're working on that, I'm going to work on getting this where we can just see you.
Now, I got a screen open. It should be open now, and you should be able to see.
Not yet, but it's working its way there.
Because I see a red bar around my screen. I'm assuming it's my opposite screen that's showing.
Oh, do you
I can
maybe
share
have
my
to
main screen.
Yeah. Have you selected one of them to share yet?
Yeah, 'cause I see.
I mean, I see the screen. I mean, you don't see it, Mike?
Yeah, I see the screen.
Actually
I don't know
don't.
if you can highlight it.
You know what's weird is I see it.
I see it's wave 100,039 edit.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah,
I see the
that's-
picture.
So I mean, I
Well,
see
I'll tell
it.
you what.
Why am I not seeing it here?
I'll stop
That-
the screen share and share on my main desk, and maybe you'll see it. So I imagine I go back up to.
On the screen
Share
where
screen.
I get Tim, I see it.
That is very weird that I can see it. You can't.
I don't know what's going on there. There we go. There we go.
You see it now?
I do see it. Yes. I got it.
Oh. Good. So this here is the bow of the ship. And we're going through the Drake Passage on one of the days. This is sunset. It's very late at night, obviously. Sunset's somewhere around 10 or 11 at this time. And this is the bow of this ship, just to give you scale, is about 3 stories above sea level.
Jeez.
Wow.
And that's going pretty much down to the water.
Yeah, and I'm photographing this. There's another series of these images. I'm photographing this from the 6th floor, 6th deck, fly deck, 6 stories up.
Are you inside?
No, I'm outside. We were actually hit by a wave at that deck.
Wow.
Shortly after this. If I ungreen this, hopefully, or just click the reds, and I'll show you a sequence of images where we hit this wave.
Oh,
So it's coming up here. They're going from RAW to jpeg2RAW.
bada bump up.
And you're going to see this wave just before it hits
Oh,
me.
here it comes to you.
Duck. Yeah.
Good
So that's
grief.
right there. I duck at this moment.
So that's
And it hits
basically
the
what,
3
9
people
stories
beside me.
tall?
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty high.
That's crazy.
And it's a ship crashing through that wave.
And now, where was this, Drake Passage, or were you?
This is the Drake Passage.
Okay.
Yeah. This is the legendary Drake. So we got images like this, and like that. And this is looking straight ahead.
Straight
waves.
ahead from your 6th floor?
No, this isn't the 6th. I'll be on the main deck.
Okay.
So this would be 3 stories up, and it's still going up over
Still
our
way
heads.
above you.
Yeah.
Oh my God. No wonder you got sick. I'd get sick.
Oh, I know I would be sick, yes.
So yeah, this is another example. Looking out, you don't really see it that well, but on a calm day, the horizon is below this guardrail. And the ship has listed over, and it's going up, and yeah. So you see,
Did you ever fear for your life?
No. Do you know what? I'm glad you mentioned that. The captain and the crew of this ship are incredible. I mean, incredible sailors, and they instilled a real sense that they were in control the whole time. They had no fear whatsoever. They wouldn't put us into a position that was risk for our lives. So yeah, this is up on the fly deck. So this is as high as that wave hit us. I was sitting out here when I took that other photo.
Wow.
And so that's an example, is they're way up above the water on a calmer day. But
Yeah, that looks like a much calmer day.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have been standing out there if it was not calm waters.
No.
Yeah, let me show you. I mentioned Salisbury Plain. This is a colony of 250,000 penguins.
Is that ship in the background your ship?
That's our ship. So this is the see this right here, this spot with this little dark thing like a person? That's where I got hit by the wave.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And that's the bow of the ship right there we saw crashing into the other wave. So it gives you a sense of scale.
It does, yeah. Look at all those penguins.
These penguins.
Yeah, that's amazing when you see that.
You know what, though, from that shot there, from the shot with that had the penguins and all the ship in the background, other than the penguins, that could look like anywhere.
It could look like anywhere, except there's wall-to-wall penguins.
Yeah, the penguins give it away.
It's a pretty incredible sight, actually, to see that many penguins.
Yeah.
It's incredible. So these are the king penguins, and South Georgia has vegetation. So this is sub-Antarctic.
Okay.
These guys were just having a ball. These are about 3 feet tall. They're not small penguins. It's remarkably tall. It was surprising for me to see the actual size of these penguins. Of course, the emperors, which are further south in Antarctica, we didn't get to see them, but they're even bigger than this.
No, yeah, they're the biggest of all the penguins, right?
That's right, yeah. And you'd seen many of the pictures there that you've got rolling around, so I won't show you all of them. But we're thinking back to that vision board, right? If you think back to that vision board, and I look at a picture, first of all, like of the ice, these icebergs were incredible. And I did not turn up saturation. In fact, I think if I look at the raw files, I often turned it down because the blue registers so high with the files.
Real life was unrealistic.
Yeah, so here it is. We're out in the Zodiacs, and I'm there. I'm getting a picture of, let this render, the snowstorm here. See the One Ocean suits that we wear, the waterproof suits.
Yeah.
It's taking a minute to register, but there's the snow, and there's us. Pretty much could be the picture on my vision board.
Yeah.
Right.
Here I am taking the very picture that I had on my vision board.
That is awesome.
It's, it's
now, is that ice in the water I could see there?
There's ice. There's ice and icebergs. I got a lot more different things, but I'll show you some crazy people.
Yeah.
Here's some crazy people.
I'm liking this behind the scenes stuff. Kayakers.
Yeah. The kayakers were great. They would go out in any weather, and they're in dry suits. Yeah. And they'd go kayaking around the icebergs and along the shorelines and with the wildlife. Penguins would be porpoising right beside them as they went along. And seals would come and...
And I guess you said that the killer whales weren't down there yet, so they didn't have to worry. There's no predators they had to worry about.
No, and they wouldn't worry too much about killer whales. Much that we know about killer whales is that they're not aggressive animals, generally speaking.
Right.
My favorite in the whole world, elephant seal pups, are just hilarious. They are the funniest little things.
And you
And
said
these are
that's
whale
like
bones.
300. That's what?
Yeah, this guy's probably 500 pounds. He's a little older.
Yeah.
These are whale bones in the foreground and an old ship from a whaling station in the background. This is Grytviken, an old whaling station. And so I was getting the kind of the
Yeah.
rust, the wildlife taking back over kind of idea. But yeah, these guys are just incredible. They're
Yeah,
just so
especially
fun.
those pups are so cute.
I think you saw some of these pictures on your own screen share, so that was really good. These guys are great. And the kings, they'll come. This is a 16 millimeter lens. If I reached my hand out, I could grab his foot.
I
That's
love
how
that
close-
angle. I love that angle.
So you can see here, if I get to another one, you'll see literally they're
About to
right
touch your
in
lens.
my face. Yeah. Some of the pictures, he did open up his beak and bite at my lens.
I was curious. Yeah.
He is curious. So I just, you stay still and you let them do what they want to do. There's the rendered version of that. And yeah, telephoto lenses are not always necessary. In fact, that's 16 millimeters and it's up close and personal. There you go.
Look at that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, here's a baby chick being fed by its mother there.
Wow, the baby looks bigger than the mama.
I was just going to
Yeah,
say.
it's all the fur they have. They'll
Yeah.
lose that shortly. He'll lose that shortly. And here they are just hanging out together as a couple.
Big
They
puffball.
their feet
Now,
up. Yeah.
penguins, don't they mate for life?
I think I've heard that, but I haven't done the research. I can't answer that question, but I think they do return to the same spot every year and mate with the same mate every year.
And it's one of the ones where the males sit on the egg or protect the egg.
Yeah,
Right.
they'll take turns, but the male does the work. He really does a lot of the work.
Yeah.
So yeah, good for them, penguins. Good on them.
Don't tell my wife.
Did I see somebody without a shirt on swimming in the water?
We did a polar plunge. Yeah, look at
Oh,
that.
dear God. So how
Look at
cold
that.
was the water?
We did a polar plunge.
I guess the water can't
It
be
was-
below 32.
Salt
It's ice water.
freezes
Salt
at
water can get lower than that.
Yeah, that's true.
1.8 degrees below Celsius, so it's like 31 degrees or 30.8 degrees. The water there was actually 1 degree Celsius.
Wow. So,
30, 31, 35. Doesn't really matter. It's
no.
cold.
Then you got to dry off and get back in your gear.
Yeah, this is the same
That's a
scene
cool
just
picture.
up the hill. from
Same
where
scene,
these
just up the
guys-
hill.
Yeah, just up like minutes before they did that polar plunge. And this is the gear we're in.
Did you do it, Ron?
I did not this time. Actually, I was ill. I had caught a virus, and it wouldn't have been wise for me.
No.
Otherwise, I wanted to. I really wanted to. What you might not know is there's ghosts in Antarctica.
Ghosts?
There's a ghost. It's ice. Yeah, ice.
Well,
He was
imagine-
waving over here. I'm over
Look at
here.
that guy. Imagine the wind creates weird shapes with ice down there, right?
It does. It does. I was just on a couple of icebergs that I would have loved to have popped up. Here's one. Look at this iceberg. Isn't this
Oh my
incredible?
God, it looks like a whale
Wow.
coming out of the water.
Yeah. Isn't that incredible? Now, this is a flipped iceberg. So it used to be the other way around, and the bottom and top weight distribution got to the point where it flipped. And so this is what was recently underwater and how it had eroded with all the currents.
That's why it's all smooth. Right.
That's right. And so it's not a tabular iceberg anymore. It's a smooth and iceberg. And so that's kind of the
pretty
thing
cool.
you get.
So,
Yeah.
going down there, when you first went down there, what were you surprised by?
I think the biggest surprise for me was the lack of fear of these animals. And how calm they were. Like, they would let you know if you stressed them.
Yeah.
And if you kept your 5 meters for most species, they wouldn't even, there was no worry or concern that you were giving them stress whatsoever. They just had this sense that, you weren't a threat to them. And so you could get remarkably close.
And
Here's a
imagine-
sunset.
That's got to make it. Oh, that's gorgeous.
That's beautiful.
That's
Yeah,
got to
and
make
the
it
sunset
easier.
lasted
That,
about
that could be
2
a
hours.
poster right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the scale, just to let you guys remember, I said you can't guess the scale.
Yeah.
This is a glacier right here down at the
Wow.
bottom. Let's take a look at that at a couple 100% here.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So a boat, like our ship, would be down like in the shape down here of this one piece of this. And so
Wow.
if we back up, so that's a calving glacier. You can see it breaking
It's
off.
breaking off.
Yeah.
That's the scale.
That's
that's
just massive.
humongous.
Just
of that.
massive.
Oh, that's a mountain.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a huge mountain. That's, I mean, it's in the clouds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I would say to people, I really got to say is this is an experience like none other. There's a reason it's a bucket list trip.
That's a great shot.
I don't want to say this just because I work with One Ocean now, but One Ocean impressed me every minute of the journey in their knowledge and training, the enthusiasm of their staff for the area, the specialists they have on board in just about every genre, like I said, geology and history and oceanography and science, as well as artists and photographers. And the whole goal is to help educate you. They hope that every person that is on one of their trips is, by and large, becomes an ambassador for Antarctica, that learns enough about Antarctica.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Well, you know, and speaking of that company, that's good to know, because I think if you're going to do this, it's going to be costly. So just if you're going to go down there and do this and you're not working like Ron, this is going to be costly.
Yeah.
Oh, another gorgeous. And you might try and skimp. And I think skimping on the company, going to a place like this is not going to Arkansas or going to New York for a visit. I mean, you're going somewhere where picking the right company to go with is critical, I think. And hearing that from you, Ron, that sounds like this is a great company to go with and somebody you should look into if you're going to go down there. Don't go for the budget people.
Oh, definitely not. Don't go for the budget people.
Yeah.
I don't know how to stop screen share. You might want to guide me through that.
If you go
Not that
back
I
up,
have to, but-
you go back up to call. I got to move my mouse there. Call, and then it should be something.
Oh,
There
there it is.
it is.
Screen share.
There we
Yeah,
go.
I'm back now.
There we go.
But I just wanted to give you a little bit more scale than what the images I had online, offered. And if I was to tell somebody, like, especially this one place we were at called Spurt, it's we couldn't do shore landings there. It's all by Zodiac. It's like the creation of the world froze mid-creation, that rocks were flying out of the ocean and ice was everywhere, and it was so rugged and so raw. It's like creation froze. If that's what the experience was like, and it was actually emotional to be there, to experience that level of raw.
That's incredible. Yeah. I would love to go there someday. I need to get in better shape before I do, because like you said, there's a lot of moving around. And that was one of the last questions I had. So of all the people that, that went on the trip, do you, and some of these people, like you said, may have paid $15,000, $20,000. It's not a cheap trip. Do you think they all came away saying the travel, the seasickness, the money, the time away from wherever I'm coming from, this was well worth the trip?
Everyone I spoke to would I think remarkably resound, yes, it was worth every dollar spent, and it was worth the effort to make a journey like that one. It is not your typical cruise. It is not going on a big city on the water with pools on the ship.
Yeah.
Not
a Disney cruise.
No, it's not a Disney cruise. The ship is well equipped, but not highbrow, although we have good food and excellent, an excellent chef, in a bar area. It's not the Taj Mahal. It is designed to be an amazing expedition experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Ron, thank you for coming tonight and sharing that. And I love the screen sharing and seeing some of the behind the scenes stuff too.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. That was incredible.
Oh, you're welcome.
And this is one of those things that maybe not on the, what do you call that? The vision board?
Bucket list?
The vision board and bucket list.
Yeah. This is one of those things that may be on my bucket list. First thing is get in better shape. Then start saving up some money. But yeah, that is an incredible trip down there. And I'd love to see more photos when you make more trips down there.
Yeah, I'll be doing, I think in the next 12 months, I'm confirmed for 3 and possibly 5 more polar trips. The next one is to Spitsbergen in Norway, in Svalbard, Norway in June. I'll be going back down to the Antarctic Peninsula in October and November, and hopefully doing another symposium in January and February.
That's awesome.
Cool.
That's awesome. So if I'm somebody who wants to keep track of Ron and see, when he goes on these trips and photos when he comes back and all that, because I imagine you don't have internet while you're out there, right? There's no internet down in Antarctica.
That's the other thing. You can imagine a guy like myself, right? I am the network internet guy. My relationships are built online. I'm there for pretty much 5 weeks without access. I get a basic satellite email account that I can only send text messages to my close peeps, and that's it every day.
It's gotta be almost like a caffeine. When you're coming off of caffeine, you got to get a little bit of the shakes.
But there's enough activity, you really don't notice it. Seriously, do not notice it at all.
Yeah. Well, once you get back to civilization and have internet and you're posting these photos, where's the best place for people to go to see some of the work that you're putting out?
I have a collection I've started on Google Plus. So Google Plus has collections now, so you can follow the collection. Okay. I share on Facebook and ronclifford.com. If you want to sign up for my newsletter, I send it out. I'm going to try to be good to send one out once a month, and that'll be things that are upcoming. So if you did want to become involved, like I know one of my students is going to be hopefully joining me on the cruise to Norway, which will be an amazing experience. And the photography instructors on the symposiums are world-class photographers like none other. So excuse my site is being rebuilt. I actually had a site crash and I lost my slideshow. No. Yeah, but you can go there. You can go to the mentorship and learning section. You can sign up for my newsletter.
Okay.
And that would be no problem at all.
Yep.
And
I think we actually use the same website theme.
Probably.
Avada.
Avada. It's an amazing theme. But mine's very bare bones right now. It has enough information, but I have a guy working on it to replace the broken theme that I have now.
Okay.
Not the Avada's great. It's me that broke it.
yeah, right. I mean, it's a lot of work. So go there, sign up for your newsletter. We'll have links to all these things in the show notes to your Google Plus account, to your collection.
Great.
To this page, to ronclifford.com. And then I think the company you use, what was the name of that company again?
It's One Ocean, all one word, if you went to oneocean.com.
And I think I found their Facebook page, so I'll have that too. And I'm sure they have a website.
Yeah, I mean, wearing their shirt today. There is only one ocean. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have all that in the show notes too.
Yeah, I highly recommend them as a company, not just because I do work with them, but because during that whole expedition, I felt that they were really professional, really enthusiastic, and I felt safe the whole way through.
Yeah, and that's important on a trip like this. Yeah. That's important on a trip like this, yeah. All right, if you missed the show, I know Jim had to leave. We had a few people who came in and left, so you're not going to hear this message. But if you missed the show, we record this every week when we do a show, and you can get the recorded version on iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Podomatic, Podbean, soon to be Google Play Music. That's all the audio. And then for video on iTunes again, on YouTube and Vimeo. TiVo killed podcasts, so until TiVo brings it back, we're not on TiVo. But that's enough places. You can get it all those places. We'll post it online on our Facebook page and our Google Plus account, and on our website, of course. So if you want to get the recorded version, get there. And the best thing to do is subscribe, and then you'll get it through iTunes or through YouTube or whatever. You get it as soon as it comes out. Don't forget to use our Amazon link, which is jpeg2RAW.com/Amazon, and we'll get a small credit. We use that, for doing the year-end photo contest where we do some giveaways, and for other giveaways we do. Tim and I don't make money from this, so any money we get from that we use to give back to the people who listen. And we also have a Topaz Labs affiliate. You can use that too, which is jpeg2RAW.com/Topaz Labs. There we go. That's all I have for this week. Tim, thanks for coming back. I know Tim was out last week. I'm looking up because that's where his video is. His son was in what happened there?
Indicted into the Honor Society last week.
Yes. Indicted? You mean inducted?
Inducted, yes. I'm not in the Honor Society.
Yes.
So very, very proud moment for Mom and Dad.
Congratulations
Wow. All
to
right.
him. All right, until next show, keep it raw. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
See ya.